Hello and welcome back to On the Break. We've got a preview for you, a little bit of recap at the beginning. But Joe, how are you doing today? I see we have a third. Mike's room is empty for now, but we'll see what happens.
I'm doing pretty well. 4-2 last week,
Yeah,
looking like the champ. So let's get after it.
me and Mike are 2-4. It's not a good time for us, and I mean, we can just start, I guess, because I don't know where Mike went, but we'll figure it out as we go. Let's talk with Mike's favorite. There he is. There he is. He was waiting until we talked about Cleveland to really get in here. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns won a football game. They did it. They won a playoff game after however many years, 18 years of no playoffs, and they finally win a playoff game. Maybe if Chase Claypool is right, maybe they will get clapped by the Chiefs next week. But at the end of the day, it's an accomplishment to win a playoff game in this league. It's one of the hardest things to do. And Baker Mayfield just happened to be the quarterback, I guess, 3 touchdowns and over 250 yards. You know what, Mike, what did you think of that game? What did you think of the Browns game? Ben played pretty bad.
250 yards of quick passes, quick reads for Baker Mayfield as always. Not a really special quarterback at all still. Okay, 3 touchdowns, that was cool, but most of them came from screens and slants. I mean, Jarvis Landry absolutely gashed the hell out of that Steelers defense. Mostly the reason why the Browns really won that game was because Big Ben was god-awful. 4 interceptions and I think a fumble on top of that too. Like, how bad do you have to play the quarterback position? That was just an awful game by him. But also you got to take into account too, he's getting older and stuff. They're pretty one-dimensional since they have no run game. James Conner has not played up to expectations. And the Browns are walking into Kansas City. We'll see what happens, but I'm not picking the Browns to move on after this.
It's hard to pick Cleveland because it's not because of that offense. That offense is potent with Nick Chubb and all those boys doing all the work. I mean, that offensive line is beaten, but it's still coached very well. Kansas City has one of the best passing attacks in all of football. The Browns have one of the worst secondaries. So it's not a good matchup there, but we'll see if anybody has a hot take about that. Really quickly, last episode, if anybody watched it and remembers, that Rams game, Joe's already smiling. We love to see it. Now, I will clear my name. I said it could go either way, but I'm picking Seattle. I think we remember that. But Mike said, I'm going to bring you back down to earth and tell you why the Rams are not going to win this football game. John Wolford with got hit by a dirty hit by Jamal Adams that got taken out of the game. But Jared Goff did his thing. That defense did its thing. Held Seattle to 20 points. The Rams were able to put up 30. Joe, I'll let you have the floor for this one because you got called out for picking the Rams, and they won the football game. So how do you feel? We'll get to Mike's apology later if he has one, but Joe, I'm going to start with you.
I think my exact words were Cam Akers will win this football game for the Rams. Didn't I say something like that, right?
You said something about Cam Akers, and he had 28 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown, so you're pretty right about that.
Yeah, I think the run game that they're building and the defense they have can beat anyone, and honestly, it just kind of showed the other day, Jalen Ramsey looked like a shutdown corner again. Their secondary's just absolute hawks in the backfield. And Seattle's play calling was not good enough. And Seattle's defense played fine, but, the offense was what held them back, just like I thought. And, it's a good pick by me. I'm happy that it got out.
Top tier pick. Mike, do you have anything to say?
The big guy's testing me right now. The big guy's really testing me right now. But I'm not gonna apologize for nothing, bro. I'm not apologizing. Persh, just stick with it. You won, okay? I'm not apologizing for nothing, bro. Like this Seattle defense. My fear about the Seattle team was their defense going into this game, and oh my God, 30 points allowed for that is just absolutely ridiculous. This offensive line played awful too. Russell Wilson was running for his life the entire day. And this offense never really took off like it's done at the latter half of the season. And yeah, that man Jamal Adams, my goodness, he played like a scrub. I mean, how do you get mossed by Cooper Kupp? Okay, Cooper Kupp's a good receiver, but this is a slot receiver you're talking about, and Jamal Adams playing like an absolute bona fide scrub gets mossed by him. This is absolutely ridiculous. The Jets definitely won this trade. From seeing from how he's played this season, the Jets definitely won that trade. I mean, Seattle just got to go into this offseason and just plug up the rest of these holes, and the defense is just their biggest weakness at this point. Maybe some
Yeah.
offensive line dead. We have to see.
We'll
But
see.
it's an unfortunate end to Seattle's postseason run.
Seattle's postseason run, a team that I picked to win the NFC at the beginning, and my Super Bowl prediction is already gone out the window. I didn't pick them to win the NFC this year. Well, yeah.
By the way, my prediction on hammering Deontay Johnson's overs. Hey, gotta go for it.
Hey, he had a solid game anyway.
Love affair.
It happens. It happens. You know, he's a good player, and Joe thinks he's quite a great player as well. He's got quite an affection for Deontay Johnson. We love.
He's a fan of the show.
Everyone's a fan of the show. Of course, everyone on the Pittsburgh Steelers probably hates the show except for Deontay Johnson. I know Baker loves the show anyway. But let's get going to this preview.
Just like me though.
No, he hates you. He absolutely despises you. Everyone does. Everyone on the Browns is just like, stop talking down about my quarterback, okay? But let's get going in this preview. That's what you're here for. It's what we started this episode for, so let's get it going. 4 games in the divisional round. They're all between pretty good teams that all deserve to be here, except for, Mike would say Cleveland, but that's besides the point, okay? Anyway, the Rams, Joe's favorite team now, and the Packers going against each other in Lambeau. 13-3 is Green Bay. It's going to be a cold day. I will say the NFC, every quarterback that is in the NFC right now has all been to the Super Bowl before. Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady. Only Jared Goff hasn't won one, but that's besides the point anyway. Aaron Rodgers versus Jared Goff. What a time. What a fun matchup always. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is going to carve up this secondary. I know it's okay. Maybe not Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams is going to have a fun time. But I will say, if Aaron Donald is healthy and at least 90%, he will have a great time, especially with the loss of Bakhtiari not being here after being hurt for the year. This Packers offensive line is weaker, and Aaron Donald, I think, will have a fun day against this Packers offensive line. But here's the thing. This Packers offense is insane. Now, Joe, you will say that this run game for the Rams is pretty deadly. It showed against Seattle, and the Packers with one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, it might show. But I still have the Packers winning this game, and I think the Packers, maybe not as handily as I said at the beginning of this, but I do have, because of that home field, that cold weather, I think that's going to prove well for Green Bay. Joe, what do you got so far? You're the Rams guy. I'll let you go.
All right, the spread's at 6.5. I think that's reasonable because that's a 1-touchdown game. But it's going to kill me to say this, as I've been so high on the Packers all year. The way the Rams played last week and the way that the Packers are beat up on the O-line, the matchup of Ramsey versus Devontae Adams is the only matchup I'd ever blink an eye at Devontae Adams. He's the only corner I could say that could have an average game against Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league by far. I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
So, realistically, if you can hold Devontae Adams under 100 yards, hold him to 1 touchdown, and maybe under 10 catches, you can win this football game. That defense is swarming. The Packers' run game is honestly not that special. They're good, but they're not special. And if you look at the way both of these teams match up against each other, I think the only reason the Rams have an opportunity – I mean, I think this is going to be an amazing game, best game of the weekend. I don't think it's going to be close. I think this is going to be one hell of a football game. Jared Goff could hold them back with his thumb. That's my only worry with this pick. It's a huge worry for me. It's taking a risk. But I think Aaron Donald is going to have a day on that right side of the defensive line with no Bakhtiari. And I think Jalen Ramsey and Devontae Adams is going to be one hell of a watch. And like all good quarterbacks, if you get pressure on them, no matter who you are going to have a hard day. And the Rams are going to get a ton of pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And I think this defense is clicking right now. And Sean McVay will probably outsmart Matt LaFleur. So as much as I would love to say the Packers are going to move on, I'm a big Aaron Rodgers guy. I want to see Aaron Rodgers put something on his legacy. I'm going to go Rams here.
All right. Joe picks the Rams. Mike, what do you have in this game?
I'll say this. There's a reason why Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in football. I saw a stat the other day. He held DK Metcalf, an absolute freak athlete at the wide receiver position, to 44 yards. And you see all these other weeks too, that how Jalen Ramsey put these receivers, these elite receivers, on an island. And honestly, as much as I love Devontae Adams, I like to say he's the receiver of the year. But I think Jalen Ramsey wins this matchup. Like, I think this also applies to Devontae Adams, where he's met his match. Because I saw some of the routes too. Like, I saw like this one play where DK Metcalf did a double move and did a go route, and Jalen Ramsey shouted him the entire freaking way. Like, and Devontae Adams is the best route runner in the league, no question. There's nobody else you can say. But I think in this instance, I think he's met his match with Jalen Ramsey. And I completely agree. This Rams defense really showed up. And Seattle's offense is definitely top 5 in the NFL this season, and they were able to limit them to 20 points. That is something to be admirable about, and that's something to be very proud of. And this weekend, Packers offensive line, they're going to have a tough time running this football. I mean, Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers, they're just a great duo. I think Michael Brockers is so underrated on that D-line. It's just defense entirely, and just the entirety of the defense is just playing at such a high level. Like, I mean, I love Aaron Rodgers this season. I mean, he's played really good. He has a great chance to win this MVP. But even though this is at Lambeau Field, I think this is where the Packers postseason run ends. And I'm going to roll with the Rams, and this is going to be an extremely close game. And I think I'm shooting myself in the foot right now, but I got to give it to the Rams. I picked up against them this week, but what they did to Seattle, I think like a lot of people are going to pit on the Packers to win this game, maybe even blow them out, but I just do not think this is how it's going to turn out to be. The defense is going to overwhelm Rodgers. Rodgers has a lot of weapons, but also, too, when you match this up on paper, they have a lot of weapons on that defense that will be able to match up with Rodgers' weapons on offense. And I think Rodgers is honestly going to have a little bit of a rough time. He's not going to have a perfect game. I think the Rams win a very close one.
I forgot to say one thing about this game. Actually, two things. The biggest two factors of this game are going to be how Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Allen Lazard play. Because if they show up and Robert Tonyan, if they show up, then it could be a whole different game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like definitely like a tight end matchup to watch. I mean, Tonyan has 10 freaking like receiving touchdowns on the year. Like, that is absolutely insane. He leads the tight ends and touchdowns this year. It's crazy.
But the
Not
Packers,
a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, too, one thing too that I'm really scared about is that how this Green Bay run defense will be able to handle Cam Akers, because Cam Akers is like second half of the season has been playing like an absolute beast. I mean, he carved up Seattle last week. I think he could definitely do this against the Packers. And as long as they control the clock, they do a lot of play action, a lot of RPOs. Because don't forget, they still got Jair Alexander, who's playing like a top 5 corner this season. I mean, they should be able to pull out this win. I mean, Jared Goff's just got to just stay, not turn. He's just got to be make sure he doesn't turn this ball over. They just got to play smart. And I think Sean McVay is very capable of putting together a game plan.
Yeah, here's the one thing I will say about the matchup. The Rams, I saw a stat, I will say. I think they were in the bottom half of the league against play action as a defense, which may be a little surprising. Here's the thing. The Packers are the best play action team in all of football. So if the Packers can establish that run game and get more play action going, then the Packers should have a pretty good time against this Rams defense. But if not, then the Rams probably will come out with the win. So it's going to come down to that early game, that early run game from Green Bay, and that will probably determine who's going to end up having the advantage in this game. That's what I got. But moving on to Buffalo, where the Baltimore Ravens travel to take on Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and all those boys at Buffalo. Now, this is a tough game. I know Mike is not the biggest Lamar Jackson fan. He's ready for this one. Lamar Jackson, he finally won a playoff game. And this is probably the worst wildcard weekend that Mike has ever seen in his life in terms of his predictions. But, they shut down Derrick Henry, so you can say that was the main factor of the game. But Lamar Jackson, the people call him a running back. Okay, I used to call him a running back, but then he won MVP and kind of shut me up about that one. But Mike is still staying strong to that narrative. But in terms of the matchup, Buffalo, I think that they're going to win the AFC. I think that they are probably the second best team in all of football at this point, at least top 3 to me. Buffalo is – their offensive production is unmatched. Now, I will say about the Colts game, a few good coaching decisions by Frank Reich, and Buffalo's out of the playoffs. The Colts would have won that game. Now, this is the first game that they've played in the playoffs. I think this is Josh Allen's, I believe, second playoff game. I mean, that Texans game that he played was he panicked during that game, and he didn't panic against Indy. So I think against Baltimore, he'll have a much better time than he has with more experience. But Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs going against good old Marlon Humphrey. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch. It's going to be it's not as good as Ramsey versus Adams, but it's up there. It's up there. But I still have Buffalo winning this game. I think that their offense is too dynamic. It's going to be a high-scoring affair to me, but I'm going to pick Buffalo in this game. I think Josh Allen is just on an absolute another level, and we're going to set up Buffalo and probably Kansas City. Mike, I'll start with you this time. What do you have in this game? I know you love to talk about Lamar.
Well, in this game, obviously, when you look at when you compare these two quarterbacks, I think you'd be an absolute idiot if you say Lamar is better than Josh Allen at this point, because Josh Allen's been having an absolute season. I honestly think if Rodgers doesn't win MVP, I think he should win MVP. He's been absolutely ridiculous on this offense. Stephon Diggs has played a hell of a season, and with this Ravens defense matchup, I mean, Humphrey should be able to have a good game against Diggs, but I still think at least Diggs gets at least one touchdown in this game. It's just that Buffalo has just too many weapons on offense. Like, you even got Josh Allen who could run, and actually, unlike Lamar, can toss the football. Like, throw that football deep, hit his receivers, and stride like that. That's all Josh Allen can do. And when you look at Lamar, I mean, last week's game, he did not do well throwing this football. He tossed an interception. He had about, I think, 170 yards. He almost met the amount of passing yards he had with the same amount of rush yards, which is ridiculous. I mean, they've just been a run-heavy offense for the Ravens. They're going to be kind of one-dimensional this game. I think they met their match. I think the Ravens postseason run ends here. As much as I like John Harbaugh, I think Buffalo is just too much for the Ravens to handle at this point in the playoffs. So I'm going Buffalo.
The Bills are at 2.5-point favorites. I think they win by 17. I think Buffalo goes in and honestly just dominates the football, dominates time. I mean, the time of possession might even be in the Ravens' way. Realistically, that's just how they play. But when you have a guy like Josh Allen, I mean, he does not take sacks. Watching that game on, Saturday against the Colts, against a really good defense. And I mean, the Ravens have an amazing defense as well. They pressure the football. They have a good secondary. But just watching the way he can scramble around in the pocket and know who's behind him, let alone, and not take sacks from behind, know when to get the ball out, know where to move with the guy moving behind him. That's ridiculous. Football IQ is starting to get on another level into the Mahomes area, to the Rodgers area. I think they make the Super Bowl, and I don't think Baltimore stands a chance. I think Buffalo faced their best match last week in a team that knew how to throw the football as well as ground and pound. And also they had their scare already. Now they've seen that, we can play really good football and win out in a close game and make good decisions at the end of the game and win close games. They're coming in even more confident than they were that last week. And I think by 17. That's my bold prediction, by 17.
17. I like it. Buffalo, again, their offensive production is good enough to be able to do that. We'll see if Buffalo's defense can make it a 17-point game. I think it's very possible. Now, moving on to Sunday's games, we have the good old Brownies and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, here's my thing about this game. I know I'm sitting here wearing a Baker Mayfield jersey, and I've said very good things about the man all year. When he's been bad, I've said he's bad, but I've given him a good amount of passes, I will say. Anyway, this playoff game is in Kansas City. Moving on after a bye week, the Chiefs have shown their inconsistencies all season. They might look flat in the first half. You saw the Atlanta game. They don't look that good right now, but they're fine. They always find a way to win games. That's the thing about Kansas City. Now, in the playoffs, with the Patriots, we knew that maybe they might do the same thing that Kansas City has been doing. They might look a little bad near the end of the season, and then everybody says, oh, the Patriots are done. They're not going to win in the playoffs. And then Tom Brady goes and wins Super Bowl number 500. That was kind of the way the Patriots played and the way that they won. It is the same for Kansas City. This is a game, and this is a playoff run that will build their identity as a potential dynasty. I think that they are the next NFL dynasty. This is their game where they can prove that. This is their game where they can show we are always going to be here, and we are going to probably win at least 4 Super Bowls within the next decade and a half. This is the game that they show it. They're going against a tough running team in Cleveland. They run the ball extremely well. And they've been throwing the ball pretty well as well due to the play action and the benefits of the run game. Here's the thing about this defense in Cleveland. You have one of the worst secondaries in all of football in Cleveland, right? They played well against Big Ben, but Big Ben did not play well. He threw 4 interceptions, okay? They got a bunch of good interceptions that led to points. They capitalize off mistakes. But the thing about the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't make a lot of mistakes. Patrick Mahomes kind of got his demons out in the Miami game. He has 6 interceptions on the year with, I believe, 2 of them coming against Miami. So there's that. I'm going to go with the Chiefs because I think the Browns are probably going to put up at least 30, but Kansas City will put up about 45. It's going to be one of those games. It's going to be a very high-scoring playoff weekend here. So I think, again, the Browns are going to have a good game on offense. On defense, they're going to get demolished, and they're going to have to fix that through the draft, and they'll win a Super Bowl within the next 5 years. But I'm going with Kansas City. What do you guys got? Joe, I'll start with you.
I think the 10.5. I think the 10-point spread is absolutely ridiculous. Do you see what the Browns did to the Pittsburgh Steelers last weekend? Who was quote unquote the best team in football for how many weeks? 11, 12 weeks. I know they're a paper tiger, but come on, the Browns have exactly what the Chiefs don't want to see. They have exactly what they don't want to see. Kareem Hunt, this is a revenge game for him. And I'm the biggest Nick Chubb guy in the world. He runs funny, but does he run well? He just breaks off big run after big run after big run, and he's arguably the most slept-on running back in the league. These two are going to terrorize the Chiefs. But I do think whoever scores first wins this game. Because the big reason is if the Browns take the lead early, they can get on that run game and force the Chiefs to make throws. The Chiefs score early, then you force Baker, who's not as, it's Mahomes versus Baker at that point, and I'm going to take Mahomes in that spot. But I think I'm going to get bold. As a picks wise, I have the lead right now. I'm not afraid of losing it, and we've all picked pretty similarly. I'm going Browns. I think the Browns shock the world.
No!
I think the Browns shock the world. I think their defense steps up. I mean, yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers they torched the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju and Deontay played extremely well. But I think this run game plays well, and I think maybe Baker steps up. It's a bold pick. I think this can go either way. I do think probably the Chiefs win this game, but I'm going to get bold. I'm going to pick the Browns.
I'll let Mike relax a little bit. He has to gather himself here, so I'll go on a bit. I can see the Browns winning this game, again, like you said, if they score first, because if you slow down this game and don't allow Kansas City to get that quick-paced offense going that they love, you can get a game like Atlanta where it's a 17-14 game. You chew out the clock, you win the time of possession, you run the ball. That's what playoff teams do. That's what the Giants did with Bill Parcells. I mean, that's what the Giants have always done. Back when they won Super Bowls, their whole thing was we need to control possession for basically the entire game. That's what they did every single time that they've won a Super Bowl. They controlled possession. That's the key to winning playoff games. Yeah, Joe? You were going to say something?
I just want to bring one thing up. If you look at ever since the Clyde Edwards-Helaire injury, the Chiefs have not been the same type of offense.
No.
Their run game is atrocious right now. He might be healthy for this game. It'll be a big factor in this game. But Le'Veon Bell has not been the answer. Darrell Williams, I don't know why he steps on the field. I don't know why he's on a roster. Same with Darwin Thompson.
Yeah.
But if Clyde Edwards-Helaire plays and he's healthy, that gives the Chiefs a little bit more of a bump, I think.
Yeah.
But if the Browns can really commit to stopping the run completely and give their secondary some time, Tyreek Hill is going to shred, so will Travis Kelce. It's just the matter of the fact. That's just the nature of the game. But if you look in the Super Bowl last year, who was the biggest wide receiver for the Chiefs? It was Sammy Watkins.
Right.
If you watch that game, it was Sammy Watkins tore it up. So I think if you take away their secondary guys, take away their run game, like the last couple of weeks have been, you could see a Chiefs offense that is slowed. They're not going to be demolished. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but you can slow down their offense at least.
Exactly. I agree. I do like the ideas. I think that the Browns, if they do all that, they can very much win this game. Mike had an interesting reaction. I'll let you go. Now, remember, I will say, this is very similar to the Rams prediction. You didn't have as much of a reaction, but I know Mike is going to have a fun time talking about. Are you ready to speak, Mike, or do you need a little bit more time to get ready? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, let's hear what you got about that.
All right, well, I really like Persh, like really showing that he likes to be risky. That's really cute. So, good stuff, Joseph Pershner. But I think that's a little bit too much because, I mean, this is Patty Mahomes we're talking about, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's just coming off a Super Bowl winning season with Andy Reid. That's number one. And obviously, I would take Mahomes over Baker if they just came down to the final minutes and one of them had to do a comeback drive. Number two, though, I do agree, though, that Clyde Edwards, like, since that injury, the Chiefs' offense hasn't been the same. I mean, there's a stat that's shown that Patty Mahomes has 16 dropped interceptions, so maybe his decision-making isn't as good as last year. We'll have to see. I mean, he's had some pretty questionable games, like the Miami game. He played a little bit reckless. He, like, put too much, like, on his back. I mean, that was kind of interesting. But, I mean, I think this is going to be actually a very high-scoring game. I do agree with that. It's just that, like, I know that the Browns are going to look to control the game with the run game. Definitely try to dominate time of possession and stuff. Because I know when this Chiefs offense gets the ball, I mean, you got Travis Kelce, you got Watkins, you got Hill. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And I know the Browns secondary has been a little bit injured this year, but I mean, I just don't think they win this game. If they had Greedy Williams and they had Denzel Ward, I mean, this probably would have been a little bit different. But, I mean, you got guys like – you got a absolute scrub like Andrew Sandeo at the safety position. I don't think that's a great matchup right there, especially he has to go against Kelce. I'll be laughing my butt off the entire darn game. But I think right now, especially with just how injured the Browns are in the secondary and how poor they played in the secondary this season, I don't think that – the Browns could pull out a win like that just yet. Maybe next year I would say that they could, but if they win this game, I have a lot of respect for them, and I'll pick them to go to the Super Bowl if they win this game.
I just want to say one thing before we move on to the next one because I see we got some remaining time left.
Yeah.
If you watch the first two Chiefs playoff games from last year, you'll understand why if a team comes out and runs the ball well, and just beats them at the point of attack and holds the time of possession and doesn't play as stupid as Houston. And who was the game before Houston again? I forget. But if you play the game smart against Kansas City, they did not come out well last year. Realistically, they won a Super Bowl on the misfortunes of other teams. Patrick Mahomes is going to win 5 to 6 Super Bowls. He's going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. There's no doubt about that. He's the most talented quarterback ever.
And also I'd say, too, don't sleep on this Kansas City defense. Last season, if this was the Kansas City team last season, I would 100% go like, okay, I'm acting ridiculous. I'm going to go with the Browns. But this is a different defense. This defense has gotten a lot better. They're probably one of the most improved defenses from last year. They're starting to play a lot better in the secondary. Tyrann Mathieu has been an absolute beast, running around the whole field, a great hybrid safety. And this run defense has been so much better. But we'll have to see. But I just don't think the Browns can pull this out. Not yet. Not just yet.
We'll see in a few years what they can do. Maybe they'll do it this year. But anyway, let's go a little quick with this Bucs-Saints game. They're division rivals. We've seen them play 3 times. Brady versus Brees, probably the final time we'll ever see it, unless Brees stays another year. But here's the thing. This Bucs team, they've lost twice to this Saints team. And one of the hardest things to do in all the football is to beat a team 3 times. It hasn't happened much in the history of the NFL. Okay. And the Bucs are a great team. They've improved greatly over the season. Their chemistry is slowly building. They looked pretty good against Washington, all things considered, on offense. This defense needs to work on it as well. You know, last time the Saints put up like 40 points in the first game, and that's been their issue. Are the Saints that same team? That's what we got to find out. If the Saints have a high productive offensive game, they're going to win this game. But if Tampa Bay comes out and plays well, like they did against Washington on offense, if Antonio Brown is back, I think the Bucs are going to win this game, and I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to pick Tampa Bay in this game. I think Tom Brady is going to be in the NFC Championship. I think we're going to see Rodgers versus Brady part. I don't even know how many times they've played at this point in their careers, but I'm going to pick Tampa Bay. I think they have a slight edge, and because they've already lost twice, it's hard to beat those teams 3 times. That's the main reason I'm picking this game, and I'm going to pick Tampa Bay. Joe, I'll start with you. What do you got?
It's 3-point spread, very, very reasonable. I think it's a very good pick for a spread. I do think the Bucs win this game. I mean, you guys heard me. I think last week I said Bills Bucs Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I still stick by that. I think Brady is another level when it gets to this point. In a big spot, it is Tom Brady. Look at how many times the Saints have lost over crazy things happening over the last few years. I mean, is it out of their control? Somewhat. But when you have the ball for 2 minutes after the pass interference play, or, you have this after this, you have to be able to dial in and win these games. And that's one thing Drew Brees has never seemed to be able to do. He's a special quarterback, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever set foot on the field. But I think when you go Brees versus Brady here, like you said, 3 times, hard to do. Very hard to do. The Bucs went in last week and, they played a weird game against Washington, but Washington's a very good team for the future. They played without Rojo, and they basically played without Gronk. So when you turn this game around, if they lose Mike Evans in this game to the Marshawn Lattimore clamp or whatever, those two have going on, Brady's finally clicking with Evans, clicking with Godwin. AB is finally in the offense. Gronk is doing his thing. And this run game, Leo looks great too.
Yeah.
I'm going Bucs. I think it's that game. I think the 2 NFC games will be the best games to watch. But I'm going Bucs, man. I just think Brady's on a different level from, most quarterbacks with just his preparation and his, willingness to do anything to win. So,
yeah. Mike, you've got about a minute. What you got?
Well, thanks. Minute, that's cute. So, I'm gonna go with the Bucs too because you guys are definitely right. I mean, with Brees at this point in his career, I just don't think that he's going to be able to pull it out, especially since the offense seems a little bit too reliant on that quick pass game. Michael Thomas hasn't been the same like he was last season. You got too reliant on Alvin Kamara, but as long as this Bucs defense is able to shut down Kamara, I think they'll be able to win this game pretty decisively. I mean, Tom Brady doing really well. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's popping off. I mean, Antonio Brown finally showed up at the end of the season. I mean, that was great to see, and I think a lot of people like the playoff that's saying that this was just a fluke, that they just beat Washington. Wow, they beat Washington, good for them. But I think they're more capable than that. Although the Saints defense, I like to say they were top 3 defense this season, but I think they met their match here. I think the Bucs offense is going to be too much for them to handle, especially in the playoff time like this. I just don't know if Brees will be able to overcome this, or just the defense overall against Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady advances to the championship game after this. Don't sleep on the Bucs. Don't sleep on the Bucs defense either. They haven't played that half bad,
Don't sleep.
well, their best trait, they're top 3 against the run in the NFL. What do the Saints do? They like to.
That's what I'm saying. If they're able to handle Alvin Kamara, they should be able to win this game. That's the number one thing. If you're able to neutralize that guy, you should go into the championship just fine.
They're good against the run, but are they good against receiving backs? So we'll have to maybe do a deeper dive into those stats. But if they can stop receiving backs, then they should be just all right, Tampa Bay, because that's Alvin Kamara's main strength to me, rather than his actual running. He's
the best receiving back in football right now. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it.
He's one of the best receiving backs I've ever seen in my life. So we'll go with that. Anyway, this was fun. This is always fun. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you all for watching on the break. Shout out to Zoom for giving you a 40-minute time limit when you have more than 2 people, but it happens. It happens. Anyway, thank you all for watching on the break. I'm John alongside Joe and Mike. We will see you all later, and have fun watching those NFL playoffs. Thank you all.